Get your pen and paper ready. It's time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
All right. Flexers ready?
Well, do you want us to manufacture talking about the pig video again?
I mean, we're already talking about the pig video, and I'm really looking forward to watching that video since y'all seen it a few times. But welcome on into the Flex. It is finally game week. We made it through the pandemic preseason of 2020. Make sure y'all head on over to BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We are currently having a special where you can go to that site and sign up with code ClownTown for 30% off a premium membership for life. That deal will end at the kickoff for the Thursday night game between Kansas City and Houston. We are finally here for the season. It is finally time. Your fantasy drafts should be over, I hope. No one's trying to fit one in here at the last minute. I know I got requested to start one today, and I told somebody, hey, hold on. When they're listening to this, it is Thursday.
And you're trying to get your draft in at the last possible minute, so you have all the injury updates, all the free agents, all the cuts.
This is the last possible minute.
Thursday afternoon, not a bad time.
I got a request to set one up, and I'm going to have to really mull on that one tonight while we're sitting here because I'm
start a new league the night before the season.
No, they're asking me to revamp a league from last year, and that'll give me 6 leagues total that I'm playing in this year, and I just don't know if I want to go through with that. It just might be a little too bright on my horizon. Speaking of bright on my horizon, you might notice the stylish shades tonight, and knock-around sunglasses that we ordered for my entire family for under $40 for 3 pairs of sunglasses. I say my entire family, but we said 3 pairs. They come polarized. They're great. They're not Oakleys or Costas, so don't expect that, but they are fantastic, and I've enjoyed them. These are actually my daughter's pair. They've been pretty fun. They also have kids' sunglasses, which my youngest just absolutely loves. And they look fantastic on my face with the polka dots, and she just went crazy.
Whoa, don't take them off. Those are amazing.
Well, I'll leave them up there. How about that? So, knock around sunglasses, sponsor us. Why not? So, like I said, we are here. We completed our Broadway fantasy draft last week. We picked our participants. We were able to get that in. I think it was actually Monday night we had the draft. This whole week's jamming together for me. So, but it was good. We did have some great picks. We had some bad picks. We had some teams that I looked at today and I went, I don't know what they were thinking. Zach, what's something that just made you take a double take? What's something that you could not believe happened in this draft?
Well, when I saw someone draft Austin Eckler as in the 7th overall pick in this league, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire still up there.
Well, thank you.
Whoever it was a fan guy, and he goes by, I think, Liberty University for the Blind is his team name because, I mean, give me a break. Austin Eckler, 7th overall over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You got to be kidding me. Ridiculous. And let me say this, Craig, taking Derrick Henry 2nd overall, knowing that I could have got him in the 4th overall position really pissed me off. Craig.
Don't be bitter. I personally love the Eckler pick. That gave me quite a...
That should tell you everything you need to know right there, yeah. Liberty University for the Blind.
The only leagues I did not get Matthew Stafford in, I'm in 7 total, 6 paid leagues. Well, this isn't a paid league, but it's a competitive league. The only league I didn't get Stafford in are the 2 leagues that I'm in with you, Robert Greenlaw.
Greenlaw loves him.
I don't have Stafford in this league.
Oh, who got him?
Little twist. Minshew's mustache got him.
You got him in the league, though.
Craig Wiley.
Yeah, the Kragan.
Craig.
Other than drafting Derrick Henry 2 slots too early, according to Zach. Just atrocious. Awful. Anything else about his team stick out that anyone saw? No, I'll go. He's not got a great running back situation outside of that. His backup running backs, I mean, he's starting Le'Veon Bell in his flex. Oops. And Ebron at tight end, and then his bench consists of, who was it? Kerryon Johnson, which you cannot love his situation now considering how this offseason has gone. And Sony Michel.
Out the ass.
Yeah, lots of Lions.
He went to the Life store. What can I tell you?
He took Greenlaw to heart, man, on some of those Lions, baby.
He's got that Stafford Galladay.
I didn't say
stack.
draft their running backs. Let me tell you that.
He does have that Stafford Galladay stack.
I do like that.
Galladay is he working with an injury though? I think I saw.
He's got a little Q, but who knows?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But that's just some stuff about his draft, and also I got real quick, Jimmy Morris, man. Just two things. Your starting quarterback is Josh Allen, and you drafted 2 Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I just saw that I'm playing him, and I don't understand how I'm only going to be able to beat him by 8.1 points.
Oh,
like,
don't look
the
at
dude is starting Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, Tariq Cohen, RB2, and his next running backs are Alexander Madison and Tony Pollard, who I assume he's just taking as a troll move at that point because he doesn't have Zeke.
And he's starting Allen Robinson over Will Fuller?
Yeah, I am going to blow him out of the water.
We may make some changes there, but I saw 2 Chicago Bears, and I was like,
yeah,
I'm done.
I mean, how many points are the Bears? How many yards total are the Bears offense going to even be able to put up? There's only so many to go around. Wow.
Yeah. And then
I also have, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just piling on a little bit to Ronan, he has DeAndre Swift as a starting running back, it's yikes. And he also has 2 starting tight ends right now, which is not a good situation. Zach's very anti-tight end in your league at all, and he's got 2 of them in his starting lineup. They are good ones, but still.
He does have 2 top 5 tight ends, but he doesn't have Kittle or Kelsey, so this isn't
Guess who's got Kittle? This guy does.
Ho.
I'm rolling with Hayden Hurst in our league. I'm gonna see how far that carries me. See if my hunch is correct on going down to Atlanta and see what he's gonna be doing there. But that's my problem with my lineup. Just if we're in all fairness, I think I took a lot of players that I'm hoping are good, but if my starters aren't good, my bench is shit, and I don't think I'm gonna get a whole lot of help there. I'm gonna have to be playing the waiver wire often.
Well, your starters are freaking good though. So.
Yeah, they are.
But I'm also projecting in a few places, and I'm hoping there's no injuries across some places, and I'm hoping there's not a whole lot of regression for some of them. So, yeah, I know they're awesome and they look great, but I'm just looking at them going, well, I don't have a whole lot of help behind them.
My team is amazing, and I love it. Thank you.
Aren't you like 10th place already?
Yeah. Projected to finish 10th.
That means a whole lot. Didn't we talk about this? I said I was getting an F in those stupid draft grade things, and boom, here we are.
Well, you're on your way to a second place overall finish, losing in the championship.
What happens if you get a D+?
Probably got a first place A+ or whatever it is. What did he get?
Exactly. That's my point. What did he get?
So moving on, we are talking about the draft of our fans.
I don't know anybody's team name, so Zach.
Jami got 9th, so
that probably means you're going to lose the league. Honestly.
Oh, I got first.
Yeah.
The Nashville Wampus Cats is first place already.
Yeah,
they are.
That's surprised.
I think someone in that middle group.
Because I sit at the great advice couch.
I think someone in that middle group who finished 6th in the projected may actually take the whole thing.
We need We need a drop for the great advice couch. We need some sort of sound. Music.
Well, obviously a horse.
A horse would be great.
Okay, I'll work on that for next week. But that's
meantime.
You can grab that later and send it to me. That's perfect. So moving on, because like we touched on, we're kind of shifting. Our news segment is going to be less about advice and who to monitor as far as draft status and drafting to now we're monitoring the news to who possibly to start throughout the week, things that are affecting other players and what could, pinball off of that. Just to go real quick through these or to go through them. The first bit of news that I came across, thank you, Zach, for helping me out with this. David Montgomery has a growing injury and was very limited in practice, but everything I read was that they're going to try to give him a full go, but any kind of a leg injury to that position has to have you worried going into the game.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was already worried to begin with because he's not that very efficient when he has the ball in his hands, and they don't like giving him the ball. So I've been extremely out on David Montgomery. I was a David Montgomery owner last year, and it was terrible to try to watch him run in between the tackles and run on the outside. It felt like a chore, and then at the end of the game, it felt like I had ran the ball because it was just pure torture watching him try to run the ball. I know he's lost weight and all this stuff, but he's already got a groin injury that's going to linger off and on all season. I'm just out on the Bears. There's just no redeeming quality about the Bears, and that includes the Bears defense.
And you might be thinking there, well, if Montgomery's out, should I start Cohen? And the answer is no, because it sounds like they're going to still try to play Montgomery injured, and that's never a good situation. Cohen's not going to get enough touches if that's the case to be
half of a bad situation.
Right.
No, thanks.
Together, they make a half of a running back one. I mean, they're even together, they're not even that good.
Yeah, you're not going to start those guys 1 and 2, and why would you have them on your draft this early anyway? On your team.
Ask Jimmy.
Yep. I'm in both of them at the same time.
My dad is also starting Tariq Cohen.
Oh, Godspeed to him.
Agreed.
All right. So next bit of news. Mike Evans reported to have a hamstring injury and is in doubt for Sunday. And the fact that Bruce Arians saying they're going to take it right on up to game time, which those are the kind of questionable news that I hate to hear about, because I'd like to know one way or the other going in whether you can count on someone, especially of the caliber of Evans. JG, what's your thoughts on this?
I think it's pretty important because Mike Evans is obviously a fantasy stud. If you drafted Mike Evans, you're relying on him this week. I would have not ever drafted Mike Evans this year, but if you did, you were planning to play him week 1. Sure. I also kind of think the Bucs offense in general might get off to a slow start. Brady's trying to learn Bruce Arians' system, which means it's the first time in 20 years he's coming into week 1 with a new system, and the Saints have a really good defense. So this downgrades the whole Buccaneers offense to me. You look at if you try to use point totals to maybe guess how well an offense might do that day, I would drop the Bucs a couple points for losing Mike Evans. Obviously, Chris Godwin's target share should be great, but the real winner here is our boy Scotty Miller, who was like a joke
Scotty
when we
podcast.
He was like a joke the first time we brought him up, but then he kind of started getting some legitimate camp buzz. And now
I never joked about Scotty Miller. I would never do that.
Always 100% serious.
Yes.
He's going to be a legitimate player week 1. So if you were relying on Mike Evans and you were weak at wide receiver depth, hopefully you can grab Scotty Miller and plug him in and hope for the best.
I would counter that this is actually good news for O.J. Howard. And he goes undrafted in probably a majority of leagues, it seems like. But with Mike Evans gone, I think the main benefactor is going to be a tight end, and I think it's going to be O.J. Howard. I don't know if they'll use Gronk as much as what everybody thinks they will. I mean, I saw Gronk go in the 5th round and drafted it earlier tonight. I'm thinking that this helps O.J. Howard, but I'm with you. I'm down on this whole Buccaneers passing offense.
You don't have anything to add?
No, I was just going to say the long-term for Mike Evans, I believe he had a hamstring injury at the end of last year, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if this is a carryover from that or what, but it is concerning if you're a Mike Evans owner week 1. And last year, the benefactor of him being out was Brashad Perryman, which leads me to think that Scotty Miller will have a decent amount of production here. But again, it's a completely different quarterback here, one who can actually see. So we'll see what that does.
So moving on next, I think our only non-injury related piece of news that we touched on earlier was Adrian Peterson back in the NFC North signing with the Detroit Lions. This has got to, if you were already kind of iffy about the Detroit backfield, this has got to set you back even further, wouldn't you say, Zach?
This is stinky. This is just a stinky situation. And there are people that spent high draft capital with DeAndre Swift. And I know that Adrian Peterson can't catch the ball, and I know that's a big deal. But obviously, Matt Patricia has no clue what the hell he's doing on this team when it comes to the run game. I mean, they spent a high draft pick on Kerryon Johnson, then turn around, spend another high draft pick on DeAndre Swift, and now they've signed Adrian Peterson. It is a mess. And no matter how high that you're drafting DeAndre Swift this year, you're not going to see the benefit this year. And I just will hold on to that. Especially with the injuries that he's already having as a rookie. When rookies have injuries right out of the gate, it takes a pretty big hit to their overall production throughout the whole course of the year.
Delays their development, and you just don't know if you can count on them. It's a bad situation.
Odell Beckhams are super rare, but I do think how much does Adrian Peterson have left in the tank? Washington has a pretty I wouldn't call it a very solid backfield situation. Obviously, everyone's high on Antonio Gibson, but who else do they have? And they said, this guy can't help us this year. So I wonder if Peterson's going to take touches. He may just be a guy that they were like, we got 2 young running backs. Adrian Peterson's available. Let's get him in here, have him teach these guys a thing or two about being a pro running back. And if he breaks, he breaks, because we already have these 2 guys we like. I'm still out on the whole situation, but I also wonder how much impact is he really going to have?
Well, apparently
Maybe,
he was
but-
having a really great camp, and it was a surprise that he got cut.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he fits what that offense wants to do
Yeah.
under Norv Turner or Scott Turner.
Daryl Bevel. Oh,
No, well, he's talking about Washington. But
Yeah.
the last time we checked on DeAndre Swift, they didn't know they couldn't find a role for him in the offense.
Right.
And this is Daryl Bevel, who, was very run heavy with Seattle. You would assume the same here in Detroit, but that wasn't the case.
So one thing why I thought immediately why they picked him up was kind of to go along with your point, JG, is just when Washington was like, let's just throw him out there early. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Well, this, I think, buys you a few games to keep getting DeAndre Swift ready for Detroit. So
Right.
I'm looking at
If he's
DeAndre
been
Swift
injured or
possibly.
whatever.
Right. So I'm
with
looking
the,
at
as high as he's been drafted, DeAndre Swift needed to be a starter week 1, and now people are probably regretting it.
for sure. But from a football, I know it's a more football perspective, but just this is probably the reason they did, to buy themselves a few weeks here, more than likely, to have Adrian Peterson to at least have as a running back as an extra body, while they don't have to just throw Swift to the Wolves. If he's really not having a stellar camp, he's not picking it up. So that's one reason I thought that they did it, was just for a few weeks, buy a rental, and then we'll see what happens. He may even get released about that 4th or 5th week.
To put a bow in this talk,
Peterson.
like Frank Gore, Adrian Peterson will not go away, and he will not go away quietly on fantasy purposes. I'm telling you right now, Adrian Peterson will get way too many snaps and way too many carries to make it a viable situation for any of the 3 in Denver in that backfield.
Detroit.
That's totally fair. You should definitely operate under that assumption, I think.
Yeah. Well, we told you previously, don't draft anybody from that backfield. You should have listened, because it's
I think
just
you
getting
said
worse.
Denver there, Zach, because I think you're comparing them, because they're both situations.
Detroit,
I think you're wanting to stay away
Denver, D teams.
Be on the screen. Be on the screen. Everyone will get it, because everyone's watching YouTube. They're not listening.
from. Trying to catch Zach more tonight, since we didn't catch something last week, which I will not bring up. Anyway, moving on down to Brandin Cooks. Quad injury, questionable for tomorrow night. So this is kind of big. If you
Tonight, baby.
Tonight,
We're a Thursday morning
night.
show.
You're right. Thursday night. Thank you. Sorry about that timing. It's so bright and sunny out.
Right. No worries.
For Cooks, you've got to make that decision. You've got to be paying attention to the news coming out right up to game time. I don't know if you're really counting on him, but you might have drafted him. You may be putting him in the flex. Is that enough of a delay for you, Zach? Anyway.
Yeah, I
You
think
still
it makes me
smiled there.
feel better.
You still
That smugness was still there for sure.
I can't help it. I'm just naturally smug, I guess. But that's just something you're going to have to pay attention to. I don't know. How do you think this is going to affect overall owners? Are they looking for him? Are they counting on him? Or is this just a situation where you put him on the bench and see how he's doing next week?
That one, the latter. But also, Will Fuller, until he gets hurt, is a bona fide starting wide receiver 1. Now, he probably will get hurt. But until then, he's got to be in your lineup. I think he's a must
agree.
At this point, I agree. I concede that Will Fuller is the guy to have.
The problem is he's probably only going to be healthy for 3 weeks. The thing with Brandin Cooks
And then he'll only be out for 3 weeks, and then he'll be back.
No, he'll be out for the rest of the season. The thing with Cooks is you shouldn't have drafted him to be a starter. If you're drafting him and he was a starter on your team, that's an issue, and you should be starting someone off your bench, because I'm not trusting him, and he's injured seemingly almost as much as Will Fuller is.
I hate Thursday night injuries, because especially when they're game time decisions, because a lot of times, sometimes people are out doing something at the time that you can make that roster switch, and it's actually announced that he's not playing. It's a little bit easier on a Sunday. And if you take the risk that you put in Brandin Cooks and he only sees like 10 passing snaps before he re-injures whatever he's injured, I can't remember off the top of my head what he injured. Quad. If he re-injures his quad, you're sunk.
Yep.
This to me is a no play zone. Do not play him. Put it in there. I don't care if they say he's good to go. Don't play him. It's not worth the risk. And like Greenlaw said, you should have never drafted him so high that he's actually your week 1 starter.
I don't have any examples of this, but I feel bad for someone who has Mike Evans that they did draft to be a starting receiver, and they've got Cook on the bench, and now they've got to sit there and make a decision. I know I'm not sure that's a specific.
Go Sunday. Just wait till
That's why
Sunday.
you only draft one running back in the first 10 rounds, baby.
Did you stick to that this last week?
I didn't actually. I went running back. If you paid attention.
Yeah, I did. Trust me. Because those running backs disappeared in a hurry.
Yeah,
So,
that's why someone had to
And the
reach for
Chiefs
Antonio Gibson.
do have a relatively good pass defense. So even if he does healthy, it's not a great matchup for him.
Well,
Now, it's a good matchup for garbage time points, but it's not a good matchup
Breeland is
for that.
suspended for the first 4 games, so that's their cornerback 1 to note.
Still, they have a great pass
They have a
rush.
different
And
guy.
I'm Deshaun Watson because there's going to be some garbage time points. Garbage town? Yeah, fine. That's
You
fair.
guys think this is going to be a garbage time kind of game?
No, but they're going to have to score points
I
to
do.
with the Chiefs at the very
I
least.
think that
close.
I think it's going to be close and lower scoring than people think. I think it's going to be sloppy and like a 20.
Well, this is the first, this
kind
first game, no preseason. We'll see what we get. Now, I'm making some assumptions, so yeah.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor came back to practice to many people's surprise. I think that I imagine he's out there running routes and reporters are looking at each other going, so who's wearing his number? What's going on here? Because it looked like he was going to miss the season, at least miss the first little bit of it with a torn labrum, but he's out there playing. He all accounts that he's going to wait until after the season to have that surgery. That worries me off the top.
That worries me a lot.
Playing through that every week. So if you've got him, you've got to make that decision and monitor that throughout every week now.
I would just stash him.
Yep, stash him. But if you do have him play Deshaun Jackson, I think, because we've discussed it earlier, he has the crazy early seasons, and it's kind of a Will Fuller situation at this point where he's going to go off if he's playing, but he's going to get injured at some point.
We'll talk about DeSean.
So save that for a little bit. I know where you're going with that because that's the next thing. But just to combine these last two together because it's the same subject, Miles Sanders for different teams and A.J. Green are both on a snap count reportedly. We'll see how much that the snap count there is. I think A.J. Green's probably going to be on more of a snap count than Sanders is, but it's just something to monitor for your lineup and your roster going into their respective games.
I think Sanders is a guy who was kind of overdrafted this year off of the hype of taking the leap. And this is why, I mean, if a guy's never done it for a full season before, you're taking a chance. I mean, obviously we are taking a chance on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I don't know, man. I wasn't really feeling the Miles Sanders hype, and this is pretty concerning. He's already on a snap count. If those snaps are in the red zone, you might be all right fantasy-wise, but you got to be worried about it.
Oh, for sure.
You mentioned earlier having, Mike Evans as your starter and then Brandin Cooks as your backup.
Yep.
Imagine if you had Miles Sanders and Tariq Cohen as your running back 1 and 2. That would be pretty bad, right?
You mean
That would be horrible.
It would be really bad, I think. Yeah. I don't know anyone that has that
Johnny
situation.
Well, he auto-picked Miles Sanders, to be fair.
But then he consciously picked Tariq Cohen.
Yes, he made Tariq Cohen his RB2 on purpose.
Yeah, well, so there's no excusing that. So, but that does bring us, all this advice we're giving, that does bring us to a next topic about sit them, start them. And we're going to start with, we've got every week we're going to try to bring to you kind of our opinions for that week, who are maybe the top 2 each that we would start, and bottom 2 that we would suggest maybe sitting in those positions. So start with quarterback, and I'm going to start with the starts, I imagine. And Justin, start us off here. Who is your start at quarterback?
So we're looking here. We're not going we're not going to say Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, right? Like those, you're starting those guys. So we're looking deeper. If you're maybe trying to stream quarterbacks or you drafted 2 and you're not sure which guy to go with, I'm looking this week at Ben Roethlisberger. Now we have questions about his off-season Tommy John surgery I think he had. And so we're not 100% sure if he's back, but reports out of Steelers camp are that he looks great, that he's got a great rapport with rookie Chase Claypool, that Diontae Johnson has been dominant. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a super talented guy that's going to bounce back. And the big thing to me is they're playing the Giants, who have maybe the worst secondary in the NFL. Now, they signed Logan Ryan, who is
Gonna get toasted.
He is their best player in the secondary, and it's not close.
Ouch.
So just think about that secondary. I mean, Logan Ryan does a lot of things well, but cover receivers down the field is not one of them. I think Ben Roethlisberger, if you're worried about his arm, I think it's like, does his arm hold up for the length of the season? Not, is he good week 1? I think he's going to be great week 1. I'm starting him in a couple leagues where I drafted Stafford, who has the Bears defense this week. And I'm playing the matchup here. I think the Giants are going to be terrible on defense, and I think the Steelers are going to be the team that's like, hey, we're back this week 1.
Greenlaw, give me a sit.
So JG touched on this guy earlier, but my sit is Tom Brady. I think he plays a really, really good Saints defense. No, they didn't get Clowney, but I still think they can get pressure with their front four. And Mike Evans is out. So his top receivers are Godwin, Scotty Miller. And then after that, he's got, 50 tight ends. But I just don't think it's a great matchup for him. Demario Davis is a great cover linebacker. I think this is a bad matchup for Tom Brady in week 1.
All right. Sticking with the sit method there. Zach, give me another sit.
Okay, I will go with Cam Newton, the guy who replaced Tom Brady. And let me say this. While Cam Newton is always a viable fantasy quarterback, he was a viable fantasy quarterback because it was a predominantly rushing offense built by Mike Shula, and that's what really helped him. Let me say this. I like McDaniels. I think that they are eventually going to get rolling with Cam Newton, but I think it's going to be a slow start. He's not a particularly accurate quarterback historically. He's got a big arm, but how much are these injuries and how much is the rust really going to affect him? And then look at his wide receivers and tight ends. His tight ends are strictly rookies, if I'm not mistaken. And outside of Julian Edelman, his wide receivers are trash. And then he's got to rely on Sony Michel and James White. No, thank you. And let me tell you something about this Miami defense. I wrote about it in my DFS article that comes out later today. It's $2,000 that at DraftKings. That is a sneaky play. For whatever reason, Miami always has the Patriots numbers at least one game out of the year. This is a good start. This is a team that has Xavier Howard, that has Byron Jones, that has Kyle Van Noy. They've added, which Kyle Van Noy was, guess where he was from? The Patriots. Brian Flores was defensive coordinator for the Patriots. Brian Flores is a really good head coach. This defense is probably going to really embarrass the Cam Newton the comeback tour right out of the gate, just because it's not really going to be Cam Newton's any fault of his own. It's just the surrounding talent and how much their defense is just so much better than that offense on paper. That's
a nice call, Zach.
Thank you.
I like that. So I'm going to go at this one. I toyed with a couple names here, but I ended up going one. I probably should have gone with my other pick, but I'm going to stick with it. Russell Wilson's a must start for me just because he's going against the Atlanta Falcons defense, who was third worst in team coverage last year, and they lost arguably their best part of that secondary in Desmond Trufant. He's gone. And they're relying on rookies now to replace that production, which I just don't see it happening, especially in the first game. There are no preseason games. And I just think Russell Wilson's probably a must start anyway, but if you have any deliberation, if you're playing in a league where maybe you picked up, different quarterbacks and you're trying to pick between him and Matthew Stafford, I would definitely look to go for Russell Wilson here just because I think he's going to be able to put up numbers. Tyler Lockett would also be a good play in that. I just think it's a great matchup for Seattle. And since I went out of the order here, I'm going to go back. Now we're going to go to running backs. I'd like to go back to Zach here, and I'll go back in order here and keep it in order. And I apologize about that, guys. So Zach, if you're ready, I'll let you start with our a must start at running back.
Raheem Mostert. And let me tell you why. He is the guy. They've already said he's the guy. He's the RB1 in a run-heavy offense where the whole offense runs through the running back. There you go. That's all I got. I mean, there's just no reason not to start him. I don't think he's my start of the week or the top running back coming out, but he is. If you got him on the roster, depending on who else you have, you should start him.
Question: what do you guys think his odds to lead the league in rushing are in Vegas right now?
Ooh, negative, or I'm sorry, $600.
I put $5 down.
Oh, plus
Plus 700. Come on.
1,500.
He's plus 5,050 to 1 to lead the league in rushing.
I don't know. I would kind of still play that.
I put $5 on it.
I would.
50 to 1? Come on,
Yeah.
dude. This guy's going to be the RB1 for a team, like you just said, that wants to run the ball a lot. Now, he may have some competition for carries, but it's not like he has competition for carries on a team that's going to be 70% pass. You know, he has competition for carries on a team that's going to be run heavy. So he's still going to get his fair share. He's talented. He's the most talented back in that backfield, in my opinion.
Now that Matt Breida's gone.
Exactly. And Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon get hurt every single season. So even
They're
if
the
he
Brandin
starts
Cooks
off,
and Will Fuller of running backs.
if he starts off in a timeshare, you know, it's only a matter of time before he takes over the whole backfield.
So moving on up here, my must sit at running back is Le'Veon Bell. And it's more, I think that when I look at it, I don't like a matchup against the Bills for their coverage reasons, but they're solid defense across the board. I think that their preseason ranking them in the top 5 as far as defenses go. But mainly I'm doing this because I don't know what's going on in the Jets training camp as far as what they feel about Le'Veon Bell. There's been some mixed messaging as far as his relationship with Gase. There's been some coach speak going on there. I mean, Le'Veon Bell looks to be in great shape, and all reports are that he's having a good camp, but Gase finds ways to mess things up. And I think he's overthinking this. And I don't know if Bell is going to get the volume that a starting running back would get. I wouldn't even trust him. I'm not even going to hit the button. I wouldn't even trust him in the flex this week.
Yeah.
And Bell and him have been kind of publicly feuding recently,
right.
too.
So there's a lot of red flags here to stay away from.
Yeah.
And Greenlaw, we're going to go with you here. Who is a must start?
So it pains me to say because he plays for the Colts, but I think Marlon Mack's a must start here. I think Jonathan Taylor being a rookie is a plus for Mack, especially this early in the season. We talked about Mark Ingram, relinquishing some duties to J.K. Dobbins. I think that's the case here. And also Phillip Rivers loves to dump off the ball, and Mack's the better pass catcher here. Not to mention they're playing the Jaguars, who will probably be one of the worst 2 teams, probably the worst team in football, especially on the defensive side. They're not going to be passing it a ton because that's the one thing that Jags defense has still is Josh Allen, who's a great pass rusher, but they don't have anybody to really stop the run. So I think the way the Colts win this game is running the ball, and I think Marlon Mack's going to have a lot of opportunity.
Okay. Greenlaw. Gravers, give us a must sit.
So it's funny you mentioned Marlon Mack as your must start because I have his teammate Jonathan Taylor as a must sit for week 1 at the very least. Kind of crazy because if you drafted Jonathan Taylor, ADP 34 overall, RB 19, meanwhile Marlon Mack's going a whopping 58 picks later at 92 overall. But week 1, if you start Taylor over Mack, I think you're asking for trouble. Like you mentioned, the rookie factor, I think that's huge here. First game of the season, you're going to give the ball mostly to the guy that you have seen do it over and over again, Marlon Mack. I feel like Taylor just is going to be worked in slowly just by the nature of having a COVID-affected pandemic offseason. He has had fumbling issues in college. He was apparently having issues catching the ball with drops in training camp. So even when the passing volume comes in, it's going to go mostly to Nyheim Hines, I think. Again, another veteran who's there. Why on earth would they put Jonathan Taylor out there this early when they have 2 capable backs already? Marlon Mack's in the last year of his contract. Why would they not grind him into the ground, get every ounce they can out of Mack, and before they let him go hit the free agent market, and then start working Jonathan Taylor in? I can't imagine getting a productive game out of Taylor unless he gets lucky and falls in the end zone, which is always a chance, but I'm sitting him if I drafted him, which
I'm counting on that though.
Yeah.
Sure.
He would fumble before he got into the end zone.
there you go.
Graver, let's stay with you here. Let's go to receivers now and give me a person that you're looking to start. And I think we've hit on him a couple times here, and I'll give you the floor and let you go.
So I don't have to spend too much time here because I literally put up his entire week 1 career stats on the screen last week if you watch YouTube, but yeah, I might do it again because I just had to hit copy and paste this week. But DeSean Jackson is a must start to me at wide receiver because it's week 1, and I know Jalen Reagor is going to play, which, that is a factor here. DeSean Jackson was a stronger week 1 play before we found out Reagor was suddenly healthy or somewhat healthy. But I do think that the playing through a torn labrum is not going to be easy for a rookie, especially DeSean Jackson's by far the most experienced, healthy receiver on this roster. He's played with Carson Wentz. He had a great week 1 last year with Carson Wentz. I think that he does the same thing here. I don't think Washington has a very good defense. They play Washington, right? Yes, right? Yes. Washington doesn't have a very good defense. I mean, Washington doesn't have a very good anything. So I think we see DeSean Jackson catch at least one long bomb touchdown in this game, and it could be one of those 152 TD days.
All right. Greenlaw, give me a must sit at the position.
This one's going to be real short, but it's DeVante Parker, and it's because he's going to be shadowed by Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, but he was really good last year when he was shadowed by Stephon Gilmore.
I'm not buying it this time.
You're not buying the DeVante Parker hype?
No. Well, I am later this season, but I love Preston Williams, but I'm out on DeVante Parker this week.
Okay. And that's the name of the game where we're going week to week here. So someone who may be our must sit one week, maybe our must start the week after. So we'll dive into that later and see how that goes. But going on to me now, I must start for me. And we've touched on this about how porous the Jacksonville Jaguars pass defense is. And I know what you said about Josh Allen, and promising young talent there, but they also lost Calais Campbell and from that front. So I just think that you're going to get more than just the short game. I think T.Y. Hilton is going to eat early in this game, and I think he's going to put up some points. I think that he's a must-start, as much as it pains me to say as well. All the camp reports is that Phillip Rivers, even though he may have a dead arm, he throws interceptable passes, but at least throws it up. T.Y. Hilton has speed, and they were connecting all camp. And you rely on your veterans early, and especially in this situation, we've harped on that so much. And when he has a matchup that is as good as this is, I expect T.Y. Hilton to be a must-start. Round us out with a sit. Unless anyone has anything to challenge me on T.Y. Hilton, round us out with a must-sit there, Zach.
I'm going with A.J. Green, and it should seem like a no-brainer to sit A.J. Green, who has missed all of off-season practice, or at least 99% of it. But you should sit him. Him and Joe Burrow have not built any chemistry. That's important. Auden Tate and Tyler Boyd have all the chemistry. Joe Mixon is probably going to get a lot of carries because you know what a rookie quarterback's best friend is? It's a running back. There's just no place for A.J. Green on this Bengals team, in my opinion. I think that he basically is the Luke McCown of wide receivers and just needs to be getting paid $12,000 to mentor and sit at home. Because at this point, if you're drafting him, you're in dire straits, man. If you are drafting A.J. Green at all on your roster, that's a bad move because he's still going higher in every draft I've seen and done. Tyler Boyd is still going after A.J. Green. You guys are getting sucked into the name recognition, and you're going to pay for it this week if you start him.
I agree with what you said, Zach, but I do have to say you made a mistake there. You called him Luke McCown, and his name's Josh. Luke's his brother, I think.
Oof. You think? Might have to look this up and put a correction on the screen.
Whatever. Yeah. I don't claim to be right all the time.
In this situation, that's true. But we're going to give Zach another chance here to go strive for perfection and give us a must start at tight end.
I'm going TJ Hockenson, and I also wrote about this in DFS. I mean, obviously, you start your Kittles, you start your Kelseys, you start those guys. And I'm going TJ Hockenson, and he's gotten glowing reviews for his camp performance. I think that the Chicago Bears, they were ranked like 27th against the tight end in the passing game. This is a pretty good matchup. And I think that with Kenny Golladay on the outside and Marvin Jones on the outside, you're going to see a lot of him as a big slot like we saw in Iowa. I think that he's a sneaky play for a week one if you're in a mandatory tight end league or if you're doing DFS plays.
And he had a huge week one last year, and that was like his only good game of the season. So maybe that's a pattern.
It's the DeSean Jackson, Will Fuller of tight ends.
Tight ends, there you go.
So at tight end, I'm looking to stay away from him. We touched on this in the early show. I am staying away, far away from I can, is Austin Hooper. To kind of point out what Zach said, people are going to get sucked into some name recognition. Listen, he's leaving a pass-happy offense for a run-happy offense. And but on top of that, his matchup is terrible. Even without Earl Thomas, that's a stellar secondary. They upgraded their pass rush. The Ravens are a fantastic defense. They're in the top 3 probably in the NFL as we stand right now. I don't like this for him, and it's not just the defensive matchup he has, but I don't think he's going to be utilized as people think he's going to. He was the one we said to stay away from at the beginning of the season, and I'm definitely staying away from him in week 1.
I will challenge you.
Okay.
Can I?
Sure.
I just think that, they paid him a lot of money, and even if he doesn't have a great year, I feel like sometimes they got to justify the big contract. I do think that they're going to go mostly 2 tight ends, so they will probably be very run heavy, but a lot of 2 tight end, meaning he's going to be on the field a lot of play action. He might be the guy who's running up the seam on a big play action kind of play. I think that he stands a chance. I think if you drafted Austin Hooper, like, you probably don't have anyone better in week 1, right? You just kind of hope that the Browns paid a guy that they want to play. I don't know.
That's what I was hoping when I was drafting him.
I got him in 1 league.
I'll counter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Browns.
That does worry me in that they have a lot of weapons to feed, and I don't know how they feed all of them.
Yeah,
and they got 2 running backs, they got 2 wide receivers, and they got Austin Hooper. That's a lot of guys.
But they just gave
probably
Kareem Hunt an extension that we didn't talk about. And let me say this, if you're a Nick Chubb owner and you don't have Kareem Hunt, I'd be a little nervous.
But if you're a Kareem Hunt owner and exclusively a Kareem Hunt owner, you did well.
Yeah.
Pretty good shape. And I
pat on the back.
I feel like that person in a couple leagues as well. I do think that he's probably their best red zone target. So, like, when you're looking for tight ends, it's almost like which tight end is most likely to score a touchdown this week.
Because all it takes is, a touchdown,
but again,
and that's it.
To your point, there's a lot of weapons there that they can utilize in the red zone. It's just your chances go down. So it's just, I'm not as comfortable with it as, say, if you're looking, but you made a good point. I mean, when it comes to tight ends, I hate saying start with tight ends, because if you pick a big enough name, that's probably your only tight end. So what are you going to do?
You're going to have the same rebuttal for me for sure.
Right. Exactly. So let's go ahead to your, let's go ahead to Greenlaw's here. His start.
My start's Hunter Henry. The Bengals, I believe, gave up the 10th most fantasy points last year to tight ends, and they didn't really do anything to fix their inside linebacker situation. So I'm going with Hunter Henry. He was really productive last year when he was healthy, and he's got Tyrod, or how do you pronounce his name?
I think it's Tyrod.
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, Tyrod. Yeah.
So that's my only challenge is that you've got kind of an unknown at quarterback, right? We watched Hard Knocks; they made him look good, and I'm all on, the team to hope he's an improved quarterback and he does well. But that's my only worry for Hunter Henry into the season is that, and if something happens to Taylor, he's got to go with Justin Herbert, who no one on the show except for outside of me had a little bit of interest in how he develops throughout the year. But if something happens, he's got to go in. I don't think anybody's really liking that situation. So that's my only worry.
He's terrible.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, that's my worry is that you've got a quarterback who's bounced around as your starter, who also has a bit of an injury history. And then you've got a rookie who 3/4 think that's just outright terrible. And 1/4 of this podcast think that he's just, he's got some skills. He's got some tools, but he's a rookie and he's not great.
Right. I'm just assuming that Tyrod doesn't get hurt in week 1 against the Bengals. That's all I'm asking for here is that Hunter Henry has 1 productive week so he can be a good start.
Yeah. I do think that.
Good.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that the thing is about Tyrod Taylor is that he doesn't like to throw very well to the sidelines. He doesn't really that was kind of his thing in Buffalo. Last time he was really a starter for a prolonged period was he was really good over the middle of the field, and he wasn't so great throwing the outs from one hash to the opposite sideline because he doesn't have a laser arm. But Hunter Henry is probably going to be running most of his routes over the middle of the field. So he may end up leading the team in targets in week 1. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, but that Chargers defense is going to pick off Joe Burrow so many times and have so many touchdowns.
Bengals are winning week 1, baby. Bengals are winning week 1. Book it.
Let me get through my joke for the LSU fan in our group here. Jeez.
Your joke sucked.
Yeah, whatever.
That sucked.
Derail it.
Clip.
All right, thanks. Okay, JJ, you give us a whatever's next for the tight end.
I refuse to speak until you play that sucked clip.
I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, you do. Come on.
I don't. This is the place of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's fine. My must-sit tight end this week is Jared Cook because the Saints added Emmanuel Sanders. I get really worried about the Saints players in the red zone this year because they like to do this weird-ass thing where they take out their future Hall of Fame quarterback, who's one of the best to ever play the game, and put in his place a guy who couldn't start at quarterback on a normal basis, but will be better than Drew Brees for 1 or 2 plays a game, I don't buy that.
He's making $21 million a year. They have to play him.
They have no choice. They're going to justify that contract. That is the reason that the literal reason they don't have Jadeveon Clowney on their defense. So for that reason, I think Emmanuel Sanders being added to the offense, Michael Thomas, target hog already. I just don't know that Jared Cook stands a great chance to be as productive as he was even last season when he really kind of lucked into a bunch of touchdowns. His like per game touch numbers were not very high, but his touchdown numbers were. So I'm staying away from Jared Cook. If you drafted him, honestly, like drop him and pick up Jonnu Smith or Noah Fant or anyone else you can get your hands on. Eric Ebron may be better than Jared Cook, at least for week 1 going against that Giants defense.
That's really surprising. You said he's not going to be very good because all camp they said how great this was going to be his breakout year, which is what we've heard for
10 years.
There's
10
one
years.
thing I've learned about him. If they say breakout year, you stay away from him. The year that they're wondering.
I'm still waiting on the Ben Troop breakout year.
He only does well his first year with a new team.
Yeah,
Jared Cook. Look that up. It's true.
So, JJ, we'll stay with you. Give us a defense that you are looking forward to starting this week.
So this is a defense that I ended up drafting in a few leagues because I don't play in a lot of leagues with Titans fans, but I think the Titans defense are a sneaky, amazing value this year. This week is one of those weeks that they're going to have a lot of good matchups. They actually end up with Las Vegas projected win totals, 31st most difficult strength of schedule. That's second easiest, Zach, in case you needed that clarification. So I think that the Titans defense going up against Drew Lock, who's in his first year with a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback coach, 2 new receivers, one of whom's not going to play. KJ Hamler doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Cortland Sutton is great, but Drew Lock likes to stare him down and throw the ball late. And Cortland Sutton's a great receiver, and he makes some really good catches, but sometimes it's not so great. I think the Titans defense is better than it was last season. They traded Jarrell Casey for Jadeveon Clowney, so they got younger, more athletic, and more versatile. They traded Logan Ryan for Christian Fulton, who this is an area where, week 1 rookie might be a bit of a concern, but they also have Jonathan Joseph, who can come in and play some snaps if it's more of a zone coverage look. They have Amani Hooker, who can play a big slot type of role if they need to. I think that the biggest matchup is going to be Noah Fant against Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard shut down Mark Andrews in the divisional round of the playoffs. I have a lot of faith in Byard here. I have a lot of faith in Clowney's ability to free up Simmons, Beasley, and Landry to get after the young quarterback on the outside. 2 tackles for the Denver Broncos are their big weakness is a susceptibility to the speed rush, which is like the only thing that Harold Landry and Vic Beasley are good at rushing with. So I see this. I feel like it's going to be similar to the Browns game last year where maybe the Titans don't win by 30 points, but kind of a slow game, kind of a defensive struggle for a bit as both teams are playing a little sloppy. And then the onslaught of turnovers hit as the Titans pressure starts getting home. Boom. Touchdown. Titans defense scoring touchdown on Monday Night Football. Play them.
Talk about playoffs? You kidding me?
All right.
I'm going to one up you, a Jadeveon scoop and score.
Oh, let's do it. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. It's important to remember, though, that Drew Lock is terrible, and that's another reason to start the Titans defense.
The hype is lying to people out there. I swear.
Ben Albright is really high on Drew Lock. You'll hear that on Friday morning if you tune into the Music City Audible. We had Ben Albright on our podcast to preview the Denver Broncos.
All right, settle down, beat farmer.
Yeah, Ben Albright is a liar. You heard it here first.
Oh man! All right, Greenlaw. Tell us something else. Tell us the defense that you're staying away from this week.
The Panthers. So they play the Raiders, which on paper, are the Raiders really scaring a whole lot of people? Probably not. But the Panthers used every single draft pick this year on a defensive player. Their cornerbacks are terrible, and all their players that they drafted this year were mostly front 7, and then at the end of the draft, they drafted some cornerbacks, and they drafted a safety, Jeremy Chin, I believe. But this offseason has not been a good situation for rookies to be in, so I'm out on this defense. Maybe long term, like maybe next year they'll be good. But I'm very much out on this defense, especially in week 1 against the Raiders, who have a lot of continuity.
All right, so moving on to mine, I must start for me is the Philadelphia Eagles, and because they're playing the football team. That's all I have.
But I mean, it's pretty good, except for they're decimated by injuries. I think it's going to be a little bit easier for the Redskins to score. Or the gosh, dang it, did it again! Did it again!
Wow.
For the football team to score more than what we think.
Congratulations, Greenlaw.
Golly, that one is permanent right there. Woo!
Caught that one.
But here's this one.
man.
San Francisco 49ers are a definite sit. And you may be thinking, but they're playing the Cardinals and they have all this young talent and blah, blah, blah. That's exactly why you don't start them against the Cardinals. Put up points against the 49ers. They did last year. They'll do it again this year because they're a team that puts up points. Whether they win, who the hell knows? But they have DeAndre Hopkins, who just got a nice contract. A healthy Kenyon Drake for the most part. I know there was a little concern, but he's healthy now. Chase Edmonds is no loss. Christian Kirk is no slouch. Kyler Murray, they're going to sling it. They're going to put up yards. They're going to put up points. Do not start San Francisco's defense this week.
So it's a bad matchup for a good defense. But
yes.
Let's move on real quick. Stay with you, Zach. Let's give us a must start in the
Antonio Gibson, baby. You knew I was going to bring it up. I know the J.D. McKissick is the starter on the depth chart. Give me a break. That doesn't really matter. We all know J.D. McKissick, first off, is going to only see a little bit of work. But if you want the chance for this offense to score, it's going through Antonio Gibson. It's going through Terry McLaurin. And it is Antonio Gibson versus this slow, broken Eagles defense. They're finding ways to get him the ball. Whether he's a running back or whether he's a wide receiver, they're going to find ways to give him the ball. Antonio Gibson is the perfect PPR kind of flex that you should be playing this week for sure.
close my app. Sorry. All right, so let's move on. That's me. I'm sticking with the running backs here, and I'm staying away from it. And I cheated here because I think they're a same person. Stay away from the Denver Broncos running back situation. Sit it, find points somewhere else. I don't like their matchup regardless, and they're going to split carries. It's going to drive you crazy this season. Try to get out of it. That's all I got.
If you have to play one, and you got both, play Phillip Lindsay. He's just a better running back.
I actually had
but don't own him
written in before I crossed it out and put the running back. So I agree with you 100% there.
Go ahead and trade him.
Yeah.
Greenlaw, give us a must start for the flex. I'm not gonna hit it.
So he once was referred to as BC Johnson on this podcast, but his name's actually Diontae Johnson. And
BC's a different guy. Plays for Minnesota.
Well, I know you called him BC one time. The first time
You
we
called
brought him up.
Diontae BC Johnson. Don't look like that.
I did.
Yes, that's the whole reason you found out about BC
night.
Johnson.
I was very confused.
That's true. The hype around Diontae has been huge this offseason. They say he's going to play the Antonio Brown role in this offense, and the Giants' defense is terrible. As JG said earlier, Logan Ryan's their best secondary player. I see is he a safety now? Is that what he's branding himself as?
I don't even know if he is.
Is that what they signed him as?
Too, which I don't even know if Jabril Peppers is good or not.
He's never been good.
Yeah, I don't know.
So a great situation for the Pittsburgh offense as a whole, and I think Johnson's going to have some opportunities to score here.
He's listed as a corner.
Okay.
Logan Ryan.
So focus. All right, give us round us out with a must sit with in this slot position, and then give us your sleeper of the week, JG.
So my must sit here, I'm sticking with the rookie running backs, is Cam Akers. All the reports out of the Rams camp are that the McVay's plans to split the carries in the backfield. Malcolm Brown's there, Cam Akers is there, Darrell Henderson is there. This was a guy we were high on from his talent, but his situation just doesn't look great. I don't think the Cowboys have a particularly good defense, but Cam Akers is a guy I'm like, wait and see how the Rams use him before I put him in my starting lineup. And then my sleeper of the week is Chris Thompson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I don't advocate for starting any Jaguars, but if you have to, Chris Thompson's not going to be a bad play here. I think Indy gets up and kind of controls this game from the beginning. They got a way better line play on both sides of the ball, I think Indy does. So I think that Jacksonville's going to fall behind. They're going to have to pass the ball. Chris Thompson's going to play a lot because of Raquel Armstead being on the COVID list, and obviously Leonard Fournette is no longer on the team. So I look for Chris Thompson to play a lot and catch a lot of passes in this game.
Greenlaw, give us a sleeper.
My sleeper is Zach Moss. We've talked about him on the podcast before. They play the Jets. The Jets blitz a ton. Josh Allen is not a good quarterback throwing the ball. He's a good runner, but I think they stick to the run game here, and Moss has some opportunities.
I'm going to go with rewind the podcast and go back to Greenlaw's must-sit defense for the Panthers, and that's my reason my sleeper is Henry Ruggs. I'm not saying that I expect a ton out of the rookie this season, but I like the matchup for him this week, and he's got something that you just can't teach. Maybe work at it, but he's got some natural blazing speed, 4.27 in the 40, I believe. And I just think that it's going to be a situation where they take advantage of that, especially if they're just telling him to go, take advantage of a pour. He's going to get some big shots, and he's going to get his points probably off 3 or 4 catches, but they're going to be there. They're going to be long completions and maybe a couple touchdowns. It's going to be one of those weeks where he's going to now lie for the rest of the season because he's going to put up a massive amount of points in this first week, and then it's going to be very spotty throughout the rest of the season. So if you're ever going to start him, he's my sleeper for this week. Zach, finish this up.
I am going with Corey Davis, and I think that he's fully healthy, and this is a prime matchup for the Titans offense. No Von Miller, slow Jarrell Casey, Bradley Chubb on a pitch count, and then he has to go up against these guys, A.J. Bouye and Bryce Callahan. Give me a break. Corey Davis, A.J. Brown are going to feast. I think you're going to see a 100 out of Corey and a touchdown. Like, I believe that this is the Corey Davis breakout season. He's in a contract year. He's fully healthy. He knows that if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to perform. I think that Corey Davis breakout game right now.
You know, he had a pretty good game against Denver last year. Not like a great game, but I mean, he had 3 catches for 36 yards, but all 3 of those came from Tannehill, which he didn't enter the game until after midway through the third quarter. So who knows?
Full disclosure, if you hadn't already taken Corey Davis, that was going to be my sleeper. So I love that pick, Zach.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Hopefully everyone else can agree with us and be like-minded and use this advice for your rosters. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what we got right, what we got wrong. Talk trash. We're all here for it.
Wait, we didn't answer Craig's question.
Oh, Craig Wiley, you have a question? Does anyone have it pulled up? Because I don't.
He was asking who to start versus Amari Cooper, Le'Veon Bell, and Julian.
The answer is
Edelman.
Amari Cooper, and
Yes.
it's not even a question.
You always start your studs. Those other 2 guys are not studs. Now, why I am high on Julian Edelman, higher than most, because everybody's kind of sleeping on him. He's like in a fantasy purgatory for whatever reason. But Amari Cooper's a stud. You always start your studs.
Yep. I agree. So thank you for catching that. Thank you for including that. Thank you for the questions. Keep them coming. We'll try to track them and answer them throughout the season because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you make the hopefully tough decisions, tougher than that, for your lineups. So
if he asks us a question though, when he's playing one of us,
I'm going to give
him whether we
horrible
just don't answer or we give him terrible advice. I don't know what we'll do then.
I mean, if he's not playing me, I'm giving him the best advice I got. If he's playing Zach, I'm helping him beat Zach.
Good luck.
Well, that is going to wrap
Number
it up
1
for us
team
this week. Number 1 team is going down at some point. And JG's going to do all he can to make that happen. Remember to be sure and go and check out all of our other podcasts and articles that Broadway Sports has to offer at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Remember to go ahead and today, your last chance to check out the 30% off a premium membership for life with the keyword or the code word, Clowntown. It does end kickoff the Thursday night game between Kansas City and Houston. Glad I got that right this time. So make sure you reach out, follow Broadway Sports at Broadway TN, the show at Flex on Broadway. Follow Zach at F-Word Pod, JG at Titans Film Room, and Greenlaw at Rob on Broadway. Also check out Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot of good things happening there. A lot of good uploads. A lot of our social media is working their tail off. Give them some likes. Show them some love. Remember to subscribe, rate 5 stars. See you next time, Flexers.
See you, buds.
Cheers to football season.
Cheers.
Football season.
And knock around sunglasses.
Knock around sunglasses because it's too bright.
Future's so bright they got you wearing shades.
All right, I'm going to bed. Y'all kept me up so late. Pushed it to 8:45, and we don't start till 9:20. Now, Ryan, next week.
Right now.
Listen, next week,
Unplug the
Ryan.
router before I come upstairs.
Yes.
A Broadway Sports Media production.